Hi, I'm Mr. Robert Chaen, and today we're talking about OCD, which is Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. And with me is Katy Yelland from UK, and you have lots of experience and lots of stories to tell us, and also some myths about OCD. I myself am fascinated by disorders and stuff like this. So tell us some intro about what OCD is.
Yeah. It's an interesting question. I think there's a lot of kind of misunderstandings about OCD. Like, people use the word or use the term a lot.
A bit loosely, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Like, some people say, "Oh, like, I really like things to be clean or in order."
That's not OCD.
And so I'm so OCD, and things like that. And no, just because you like things to be clean or lined up or the picture on the wall to be straight or whatever doesn't necessarily mean that you have OCD. It could, but it depends on a lot of other things. So I think there's quite a lot of sort of misconceptions and misunderstanding.
Yes, I think the public also have exposure to TV series like Monk. Adrian Monk is a detective, and he had OCD. He was obsessed with certain things. He's had fears of germs, and you can see it in his character. So I'm sure there's some reality TV that you may have seen. The audience may have seen.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, in the UK, certainly there's programs like Obsessive Compulsive Cleaners, Obsessive Compulsive Hoarders, and things like that.
Yes,
so there's a lot around. But I still think there's not a particularly clear understanding of what OCD
is. Is hoarding
like.
also OCD?
It could be.
It could be.
Okay. Yeah. So the thing with OCD is that there's two parts to it. There's the
two parts.
Yeah. So there's the obsessions, that's the O, obviously, and then the compulsions, which is the C in the OCD. And the obsessions are usually take the form of what we call intrusive thought.
Intrusive, it keeps coming.
Yeah, exactly.
You just can't stop it.
Yeah, it keeps coming. You don't want the thought. It's not something that you know. It's not a thought that you've chosen to have or something that you want to do. But it's like these thoughts that appear in your mind. And the thing is, that everyone has random thoughts every day.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But that's not OCD.
No, like, I mean, you know, have you ever, when you've been standing on the platform at a train station, thought,
got a lot of random thoughts?
Well, no, but if you, like, for example, waiting for a train, the thought might go through your head, oh, what if I jumped onto the tracks or something?
Oh, yeah, or you're on a high building or on a balcony, you go like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, what if I jumped off? And these thoughts are, like, completely normal, like, if not everyone, then most people have like these random nonsensical thoughts every day, and we have like thousands of thoughts that just pop into our head each day. So it's not that's the problem. But the thing with OCD is that these thoughts kind of get stuck. So a person,
and you can't unthink it out.
Yeah,
it's just like a flood of thoughts, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So like a person without OCD might have one of those weird thoughts about jumping off a balcony or whatever, and just think, oh, that's a bit weird. Oh well, never mind, and just do the next thing and get on with their life. But if you have OCD, then those thoughts can feel very, very real and very scary. So you might think, oh my God, what if I actually want to jump in front of the train? Oh my God, like what? I feel like I'm going to. What if I've got to? Oops. So I've got to stop this thought. I've got to get rid of the thought, and that's when the compulsions come in. So the obsession is the fear or the intrusive thought.
Obsession is the fear,
the fearful thought that you attach meaning to. That you think, because I thought,
you attach a lot of meaning to it.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
If I do that, if I don't do that.
Yeah, you kind of believe it in a way because it feels
it's
real.
It's obsessed.
Yeah.
And then the C part,
and then the C part is the compulsion. So that's anything that someone with OCD might do to try to get rid of the intrusive thought.
So you definitely need two. You can't have one.
Not really, no.
So it's a bit like bipolar. Some people say I'm depressed, so I'm bipolar. It's not. You need both. You need the depression and the mania. You know, the manic depressive. So if it's just depression, it's just unipolar depression.
Yeah.
It's not bipolar. You need those two. So same thing with OCD. You need both.
I suppose in that sense, yeah, absolutely, that you do need both. So when you think about, you know, perhaps your friend or a family member who, you know, who's like slightly more sort of clean and particular
about hygiene.
Exactly, yeah. Like that could be a compulsion for an obsession, but it's possibly, you know, it's more likely not to be. It could be just that they're particularly clean, you know, or you know, just like things that way, you know.
Would you like to share some of your own personal story? I know it's very personal. You told me that you struggled quite a few years.
Yeah.
So I think people may relate to that when you share your experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, there's one thing I would like to add about that, just to make it clear about the relationship between obsessions and compulsions. So the cleaning thing, that can be a symptom of OCD. But if someone has a cleaning compulsion, like I must clean this table, like so it's absolutely perfect, then that's in response to an obsession or a fear, which would be something like, if I don't make sure this table is like absolutely clear and completely free of germs, then there's a very high chance that I'm going to get some disease and get ill and pass it on to my children, and they're going to die, and it'll be all my fault for not having clean.
And endless fear.
Exactly.
That makes OCD.
Yeah, and there's often a lot of guilt associated with the obsessions in OCD. For example, the germ one is the sort of easiest to explain, really. So yeah, someone might think like, you know, I might have, you know, I've been on the bus today, and I, you know, to press the button or something, and that might have had someone else touch it who has a disease, and therefore I've come back and I haven't cleaned the table properly, so it's going to be my fault.
A lot of meaning, a lot of unnecessary worry and fear, and that normal people don't have that type of.
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of a heightened, very heightened, it's an anxiety disorder, so it's kind of characterised by fear and guilt and doubt and all of those things, and I don't have those cleaning obsessions. In fact, I'm very messy and kind of probably not as.
So the cleaning thing is kind of like the most stereotypal.
Exactly, and it does exist.
It does exist.
It's absolutely
definitely one of the forms of OCD.
Precisely,
but it's not the only thing.
But it's not the only one by any means.
What other types of OCD, like besides cleaning, locking?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, so you could be very fearful.
Could be thousands of.
It could be. To be honest, it could be absolutely anything.
Anything.
The defining feature of OCD is that you have these intrusive thoughts that create a great deal of anxiety and fear, and then that you perform compulsions, which again could be pretty much anything, in order to try to get rid of those thoughts.
So these two combined, it becomes OCD.
Exactly. So the content of the obsessions and compulsions, it could be, I mean,
a million things.
It could be a million things,
Yes,
and it's probably very different for. Different between OCD sufferers. So for me,
your story.
So I've like I say, I've never had sort of cleaning compulsions or anything like that. I'm sure my parents and previous housemates will testify to that.
Yes.
So one particular episode of OCD that I had a few years ago now. Was that I thought I was really ill with a particular brain disease.
This is all thoughts.
Yeah.
You believe that you have it.
I did, yeah. Because what happened was that I was very stressed at work. So I was having a lot of anxiety anyway, and kind of problems with concentration, and also a few memory problems, because that can happen when you're stressed, right? You sort of forget things and you blank out and all of that. I started kind of noticing these things happening, and decided to search on Google for what this could possibly mean, which is obviously, like, as we all know, never a good idea to search on Google for symptoms of a medical disorder, because you can literally diagnose yourself with anything. But
you can be misdiagnosed when you self-diagnose yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I learned that the hard way with this one.
So there's a danger out there that you may misdiagnose.
Yeah, don't Google symptoms.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like they may see this and say, yeah, I have that.
Yeah,
and
exactly,
actually, they may not have it. It may just like, it's a natural...
yeah, and if you've got a head, you know, I don't know, one of my friends like had a headache and Googled headache and it comes up with brain tumour, so, you know, you can...
and then you start, you scare yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, with me, so I started kind of, forgetting things and just losing concentration and stuff, so I searched on Google for like memory loss. Obviously the first thing that comes up with is dementia and Alzheimer's.
Oh gosh.
But I was like 27 or 28 at the time, so probably not that. Okay. Ruled out brain tumour for some reason, don't know why. And then came across CJD. I don't know if you remember that from the 90s. It was like the mad cow disease. And,
It was quite big in UK too.
Yeah, it was. It was a big scandal. I remember when I was a child seeing it on the news and being like, scared by it. So anyway, I came across this in my Googling, and I was like, that's it. That is what I've got. And
you believed it. Without checking.
It felt absolutely
without checking
real.
with any doctors and that's the trouble. You don't do that.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I did go to the doctor immediately, and I said, I think I've got this, and she said, I think you should see a psychiatrist. And I said, no, really, I've got this.
Wow,
she was like,
you actually believe it.
Yeah. I mean, the thoughts felt very, very real.
Okay.
So. Yeah, my poor GP, because I went to the doctor like several times, like repeatedly, and like going, please help me. I've got this. You've missed something, you know. Like
you're totally adamant that you have it.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, it's more the fear of having it. I think I knew somewhere in me that this was irrational, and that it probably wasn't true, but it just felt incredibly real because the fear was there.
Yeah. The trouble with the emotional brain is 25 times more powerful than the rational brain.
Exactly.
So logically you say, no, that can't be true.
Yeah.
But then your emotional brain kicks in and sabotage and control your whole being.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And you know, my body and brain, nervous system, whatever, were like firing off signals that there's something wrong, there's something wrong.
And you probably invite
this is it, you know.
some things that are not there to be there. Start self prophecy, you know, fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, exactly. So I went to my doctor about a million times, and what else did I do? Yeah, because I was kind of really worried about my memory. I started. And I couldn't remember the meaning of some random words. It
got worse and worse.
Well, no, it didn't. It's just that I developed this compulsion, so that's the compulsive part of the OCD.
Part, yes.
Which was like, okay, if I can't remember the meaning of this word, then that means that I am losing my mind. Equals. I'm dying of this thing. Obviously, it's called mad cow disease, and you know, you've heard all the jokes about that.
It's something what I call like you stretch your truth into everything so far in the future, and you actually believe all this from just one small thing.
Yeah, there's an element of OCD which is called magical thinking.
What's magical thinking?
So it's kind of, so in my case it was, right, if I can remember the meaning of this word, and remember what I ate for breakfast for the last 5 days in a row, that means that I haven't got this illness. So it's a kind of thinking that a particular
who said
thinking that doing a particular compulsion or finding proof of something will stop the fear of this big thing that you're scared of. So going back to the cleaning obsession, because that's often the easiest one to kind of describe. So somebody with a cleaning compulsion might say to themselves, okay, if I wash my hands 3 times, that will mean that I'm not going to give this disease to my children.
So you actually would put a figure to it?
Yeah, I mean,
whether it's 3, 5, doesn't matter. You would think that matters.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I think what it is a kind of, I don't know, a misplaced method to try and control something that you ultimately can't control.
Yes.
Because, you know, nobody can be 100% like absolutely crystal clear, 100% sure that they're not going to get an illness from the bus and pass it on to their children.
Yeah.
You know, it's unlikely, but
Yeah.
you cannot be 100% sure about that.
Not, yes.
And when I thought I had this brain disease, I think my OCD kind of chose that particular illness because you cannot be tested for it until after you're dead. So there's no way of proving.
Oh my gosh! So it could be a forever thing. It could.
Yeah.
If you let it, could be. Wow. So that's kind of that's quite horrific.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I mean, it lasted for about 9 or 10 months.
Wow.
Me kind of looking up words in the dictionary and sleeping.
So what do you do in the 9 months? Can you work? Could you?
No, I quit my job and moved back home with my parents.
Really?
And, yeah, it was. I mean, yeah.
So it affected your functionality, your whole life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it does. Like, I mean, I see this statistic in a lot of places, and I haven't recently checked it, but apparently the World Health Organization lists OCD as one of the top 10 most debilitating illnesses in the world. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people with this OCD.
I think the statistic is about 1 in 100.
That's quite high. That's quite high.
Yeah.
Is there any myths? Some people may think while seeing this video that, wow, I may have OCD when actually you may not have. What are some of the myths?
Well, I think we discussed the cleaning, and you know, that's a big thing that people say. Is a problem with OCD is that often whatever obsession or fear that you're having is kind of, well, it's extremely painful. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a fear or a problem, right? So it's usually something that's important to that person. You know, for me, it was losing your mind and dying. You know,
so this is very critical, very important.
Absolutely, yeah. And also it can be things that people are often really, really ashamed of. So for another
guilt,
kind
shame, all part of it.
Yeah, exactly. So like another common type of OCD is kind of violent, intrusive thoughts.
Such as?
So for example, somebody might have this intrusive thought and then fear that they're going to stab their partner with a kitchen knife whilst preparing dinner or something.
Wow.
And that sounds extreme, doesn't it?
It's extreme. But they won't do it, right?
No,
it's just a thought to keep coming.
Exactly. Like statistically, people with OCD are actually less likely to do any of these things than people without OCD.
Yes.
Yeah, precisely because they're so scared of it, and they're really, really, really like they find the thoughts abhorrent and utterly
so they're
dreadful.
not likely to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But nobody can tell that they're going through that because it's not apparent.
Exactly, it's not always
unless
apparent.
you talk about it.
Yeah, and you know, going up to someone and saying, I think like this, you know, nowadays the stigma around mental health is changing a bit.
Yes.
But I think it's still easier to go to someone, a friend, and say, you know, I'm feeling really low. I think I'm, you know, suffering from depression maybe.
Yes.
I think that's a lot easier in some ways than saying to a friend, look, I'm really scared that I'm going to stab my wife when cooking dinner.
That's kind of scary. Yeah.
That sounds really scary.
Yes.
And if someone doesn't understand what OCD is, then they could be like, okay, right, we have a problem. You need to go to hospital.
Yes, we should lock you up.
Yeah, exactly. You're a psychopath, you're psychotic, whatever. So I think there's a lot of shame, I guess, surrounding. So
would an OCD person talk about it, or they kind of keep it, or would they excessively talk about it to certain people?
That's a good question. It's a good question actually. I think it depends. Like, it's one of the nicknames for OCD is the doubting disease, and another one is the secret illness.
Secret illness, doubting.
Yeah, so it's quite common, I think, that someone having OCD symptoms would either make great efforts to hide that from people because it's embarrassing and or just not talk about it because they feel ashamed and scared and like, what is wrong? You know, what's wrong with me? Why am I having these thoughts? And I can't tell anyone that I've know thoughts about whatever.
Maybe judge me.
Yeah, exactly, and lock me up or
whatever.
and yeah, you also asked if some people talk about it sort of excessively.
Yeah, it's to the extreme where you,
Yeah, that's also possible, I think. So
the whole range.
Yeah, I guess somebody who, I don't know, taking the harm obsession that we talked about with the being scared that you're going to stab someone or whatever. Somebody could, for example, endlessly ask their friend or partner or whatever for reassurance that they're not going to do that.
Okay.
So do you think I'm capable of that? Do you think I could do that?
So they will talk a lot.
Yeah.
And they keep talking about it.
Exactly. Yeah. So that could be a compulsion, in fact, to get reassurance that they're 100% sure that they will not do this thing that they fear doing.
They fear they will do it. Yeah.
So that can be so endlessly talking about it and asking people for reassurance is often a compulsion, actually.
What would anyone can do if they suspect? What can you do with OCD? What have you done to help yourself? Is there any remedy or any steps?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the research has shown that there are a couple of things that can be very helpful for OCD. One is medication. Yeah, and I know a lot of people.
Medication is anxiety or no? What sort of medication?
So medication, prescription meds, that you would get from a doctor or psychiatrist. I think I've met quite a lot of people just on my travels who've kind of been quite anti-medication, and I guess that's a personal choice. But research does show that certain drugs are or can be effective for OCD, and that tends to be drugs in the SSRI, which is a kind of antidepressant drug family.
Anything else?
Yeah, so medication and also therapy.
Psychotherapy?
Yeah. So the psychotherapy that has been shown to work best for OCD is a type of cognitive behavioural therapy, which is called ERP, which stands for Exposure and Response Prevention. So for me, the easiest way to explain that is I sometimes see the fear of my intrusive thoughts as a kind of phobia of my thoughts, in a way. So I'm really scared of my thoughts.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if you imagine that you're having psychotherapeutic treatment for, say, fear of spiders, now what a therapist would do to combat that is to start small. So you'd maybe start with looking at a picture of a very small spider from
and
far away.
And you're far away, you remove,
and then and then you feel the anxiety, but the spider stays there, and the anxiety will go up, but it'll come down again eventually. Okay, and when it comes down, that's called habituation. So you get used to the trigger, which in this case is the picture of the spider. And then you would have a picture of a bigger spider, and eventually go on to real spiders, and then finish off. The ultimate aim would be to, perhaps have a tarantula crawling across your hands, and
be good,
and be able to deal with the anxiety that provokes, and finally realise that spiders are not the enemy, and they're not going to hurt you. Unless you're in Australia, but that's a different story. So the equivalent in OCD, I would say, is fearing your thoughts. So with a good ERP specialist in therapy, you would work on exposing yourself to your fears bit by bit. So you would maybe start with something that's not the most terrifying
baby steps.
Exactly, yeah. So, for example, if you have the cleaning obsession, and one of your compulsions is to, clean the table with bleach 15 times before dinner. Then what you would do, it's called an exposure, these exercises. So for an exposure for this, what you might do is you would have the thought, your automatic intrusive thought, which would be, if I don't clean the table 15 times before dinner with bleach, there might be some germs on it which will harm my children.
Myself,
exactly. So so the the challenge there might be to say, okay, I'm going to wash the table 10 times before dinner.
Oh, you mean scale down?
Exactly.
15 to 10.
Exactly.
So just scaling back.
Exactly.
Shrinking it.
Yeah. So and what would happen in that situation is that the person with OCD would have a big spike in anxiety, thinking, well, I have to wash it, has to be 15 times because otherwise it's not right.
So it's down to numbers, huh?
Can be, yeah, it can be. But the aim would be to sit with that anxiety and
be okay.
And eventually be okay with that. And bring the compulsion down to a lower level, and you would do that over a gradual period of time, and the ultimate aim is to not do compulsions at all, and to be okay with the thoughts as they appear in your mind.
Okay.
I would say that's the aim of therapy for OCD. It's hard, it's very hard.
Okay.
Because it's it's facing the things that you fear.
Yeah. Is there any way people can get help for all this?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that if you think you're struggling with OCD, possibly, then go and see your doctor. That should be the first port of call. Yeah, there's a lot of there's also a lot of good resources on the internet, but do be careful because there's a lot of rubbish out there as well.
So what are some reputable websites, if any?
Yeah, I mean, there's one based in the US, which I think is called the International OCD Foundation. So you can search for that on Google. In the UK, there's one called OCD Action, which is a registered charity and has a lot of good resources and information.
In any case, we will put all these details in the description, and people can get help. So thank you.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts?
I think I would just say that if you do have OCD, it can be absolutely horrible and distressing and and really tough, but there is help available. Recovery, or at least managing the disorder so that you can live your life happily and well in the way that you want to, is possible. And there is support out there. So, yeah.
Final question: Have you managed to at least have some control over OCD, or you feel it's still there?
For me, I'm kind of in the middle of, sort of treatment at the moment. Okay. So I'm learning particular skills to overcome and manage it. So I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. I'm on the right path, and I do have more confidence than I have done previously that there is a way through.
Great.
And happiness is available.
Yes. And her blog is called Monkey Minds.
Yes, yeah.
.blog.
That's the one.
Okay.
Yeah. So we
she just started like a few months ago.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, and like our page.
Thank you.